Welcome back to Dark Nexus. My friends, it is Act 3, Chapter 100.
Wow.
Crazy. So exciting. Now, just because I murdered somebody at the 50 mark and I had all this stuff prepared, I decided to go not plan some sort of crazy 3-part adventure tonight and just see where we were when we got here. The fun thing is that we ended up with our cliffhanger last week being the reveal of these 7 gifts, which then turns into what I have designed as a puzzle for the players before the characters do their part of the puzzle. This is, ever since we decided we were going to play this adventure and make a podcast out of it, I have not watched anybody else's or listened to anybody else's games, and I have stayed off all the boards so that all the ideas that came up at our table were inspired by us. But one idea I read on the Paizo message boards years before we ever started that stuck in my head. I wanted to acknowledge them. There's somebody in the boards named Tassfarel, who I believe is a GM from Germany, who came up with the idea of, wouldn't it also be fun if the puzzle of which books to use for which gift research was something that the players could engage with as well? Because it sounds like, I believe their table wasn't good at the research checks, so he was also looking for ways to kind of have it something that the players could do. So that I was inspired by that idea. We just sat down here in the dark in the studio on a very rainy, stormy day, and I had the pleasure of listening to my 4 very good friends work together as a team over about 45 minutes here, pouring through the descriptions of each of the 21 remaining books, trying to assign them to a category that might relate to a gift. We'll spare you all of the excruciating minutia of that whole conversation, but knowing that the characters would have immediately upon awakening, covered in blood and dealing with healing themselves after the Dreamlands adventure, would have immediately pulled those books out and started working on them. Let's kick off with what the 4 of you believe to be the books you want to use to research each of the 7 gifts.
Did we go over the list of gifts last time?
We did, but let's do it again. Let's kick off with the list of gifts, or we can lead them as
do them one at a time.
Yeah, great. You want to kick us off with the first one, Katie?
Yeah, the Viscount's signet ring. We determined that theological agreements of the kingdom was part of this because it deals with the imaginary city of Celephaeus. And there is a mention of a Viscount, or there are mentioned that there were Viscounts of this city. So mention that word felt like
the author had dreamed up this city and could list every king, viscount, and baron in its history, and they grabbed onto the word Viscount.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next one is elements through the spirals of time.
And what was the tie there?
There is Celephaeus.
Celephaeus is mentioned again.
And the last one is spiders of sin and sky.
And did you have a good tie there, or was that just one that fell by default to a place?
I will say that I thought it was a connection too, because in Spiders of Sin and Sky, it talks about a garbled mess of documented examples of humanoids experiencing sexual desires for spiders. And in one of the other books,
Elements
it mentioned
spiders
above.
So spiders are the connection there.
Seems to be. What was the next item on the list?
The next item on the list was the feline tail of blue and purple mottled fur. That's very specific. One of the first texts that we had, the one that Dabwick was able to read and written in Druidic, was Tigers and Flies. And that's a collected papers of a Druid naturalist who was focused on great cats.
Yep.
And traveled to some notable dreamland environments, including the Enchanted Wood. And we found the Enchanted Wood brought up in another text called Monuments of the Forest, which is a pixie scholar, and her travels into the Enchanted Wood. And then it mentions that she had spent some harrowing days among the Zoogs. And we've encountered Zoogs before.
Chapter 3.
Yikes. And then found Zoogs were brought up in another book called The Wise Harmony, which was written in Undercommon. It's a philosophical treatise written by a monk reflecting on 200 years working as an intermediary between his community and enclaves of Zoogs.
Nice. And the next item on the list?
The next one is a skull of ghoul royalty. So
Gripper dove into the books.
Grip was...
As he's wont to
He
do.
put his
very
little,
good.
he's put his little glasses on, and he's got a little green visor.
Yeah.
And little garters on his shirt to keep his sleeves up. So we started first with the Unified Manual of Understanding, which deals with deep understanding brought on by an eternal existence of undeath. And it mentions the wisdom of the Queen of Iguskais. There was another book that also mentioned Iguskais, the Codex of the Three Prescriptions. And it mentions 3 great necropolises, one of which is this city of Iguskais. So that was written by an unnamed Lich scholar. So there's an undead theme tying that together. And then also Manual of Silence, which also mentions the ghouls of Leng, who have entire social structures, which I think we learned some about in a previous episode. And it ends with consider the tales of Iguskais. So there seemed to be a through line of this necropolis, and that seemed to tie in with ghoul royalty.
Amazing. What was the next one?
It is the greenstone idol of the water lizard.
This idea was seeded on a long time ago. Do you all remember the first time this was referenced in our story?
When?
So, in the psychometry visions of the dagger that killed Ray, there was the first vision where Tima was talking to Melisande. In the second vision, I think the 4 of you would enjoy going back to listen to this one specifically now. They were obviously in the middle of doing the dream gift quests because Ray was freaking out about how hard they were, how Lulz was in over his head. This latest one, the idol and the lake, he didn't think they were going to survive it. Yeah, you might go back and listen to that one. There's some sideways nods to stuff that you now know you all were doing.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So the Greenstone Idol.
So we'll start with Festival of the Snake, which directly references the water lizard of Minar.
There we go.
And then go to the Forgotten Servants, which also references Minar. And then there's the Illusion of the Weeping Ones, which doesn't reference Minar or water lizards, but it references the Battle of Ib. And the Forgotten Servants, it references the people of Ib and the negotiation of the treaties there.
Yeah, it seems like whoever the people that live in Ib are constantly in a state of conflict because every time they're referenced, there's something going on. And then what's next?
The Night Hag Ambassador's Heartstone, and we started off with In Admiration of Keeping Pacts. And in that one, it mentions famed diplomats like Ambassador Quaviandra. And following that, we went to The Falling Silk. And in The Falling Silk, a lusty and foul account of sexual escapades of 3 succubi let loose in the vice dens of Dilathleen while on a one-day release from their job running black market souls for a ruthless mistress named Quaviandra. And since we were already in Dilathleen, we followed on to Atop the Valley's Soul. A Zarni bandit falls asleep and wakes in the great port city of Dilathleen.
Nice. What was the next gift?
The next gift is the Captain's Tricorn, and we thought, Captain's Tricorn, that sure does sound like Vadrak in his dark, dark ship. So we went directly to the Shadow Ship. 3 unnamed sisters, one from Hlaneth, one from Thrawn, and one from Kiran, talking about their lover, Vadrak.
Yes.
And then following along with the sister from Hlaneth, we went to Voyage of the Rainbow Servant, a truly epic saga written in the form of a sea shanty recounting the travels of a cunning yet beneficent snake goddess as she impacts the lives of everyone in the multiverse whose days are touched by water. From blah 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 to blah 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 to pearl divers in Hlaneth.
Yep.
And then finally we ended with Emotions of the Past, the confessional account of a survivor of 1 year spent aboard the dread pirate Vadrak ship.
Yeah, great. And then the last gift.
The last gift is certainly the best, I think. The red webbed foot.
Certainly the easiest to say.
We're like, the red webbed foot. Well, that sounds really strange. Let's see. Oh my goodness, in Shards of Sight, The author's spirit guide, the great Bloodfoot Demon, revealed to her a dizzying array of alternate past histories of her homeland, Arventon. And then that shows up in Curses of Black Lake, talking about the doctor dreamed of living in a city called Arventon, what was banished to the caves below for some unknown crime. In the Underdark, he found the mythical Black Lake, which served him as a source of food and water during his exile years, but was haunted by all manner of dangers. And then finally, that connected us to dichotomous translations of Aklosyntax, a book of grammar and usage peppered with helpful demonstrative examples of why, when, and how the improper conjugation of aklo can get you killed.
Yep.
For example, if you find yourself negotiating for your life with the denizens of the Black Lake.
There it is. Well done, y'all. So the idea behind this puzzle was if you had made some choices that led your characters down the wrong road, you might be wasting time in your research. But I will just say, well done, my friends. You have put the right books with the right gifts.
We sorted things correctly.
Which now means Dora has available to her 7 brand new research projects. Each of the 7 has to be tackled individually. And let's review again a little bit of what it is that she's researching. We know that it took Tima and Lowell's 3 years to figure out what are appropriate gifts and where to locate them. The reason why you're going to be able to possibly in the span of a day or 2 figure that out is because Tima did the work for 3 years. So each of these books is written by some combination of a mad person, an insane person, a dead person. They are all just like horribly written, total chaotic jumbles. They are not textbooks, but they are littered with page after page after page after marginalia of Tima's handwriting, every single sentence parsed like, could this be useful? Is this useful? But without having any idea of what you were actually looking for, there was no way to know how to put this together. So now, knowing what gifts you're looking for and what books to use together, Dora will be able to spend time, 8-hour research checks, seeing if she can link up and find a story of what Tima learned. And maybe, if they kept notes like this in these books, what you all did before. It's not quite clear yet if that kind of information is in here. But you do know, I'll tell you mechanically, getting to the end of each of these research checks is going to leave you with, we know we have to go here and get this, and then, this is from 1,000 months ago in our actual timelines, the last thing in the description of the Dreamlands excursion ritual says that if you have a specific passphrase, you can add that to the end of the ritual, and then you will appear in the location keyed to that passphrase. So you might be coming up with passphrases to take you to Dilathleen, Egu's Kais, the Black Lake, the Enchanted Forest. You'll find out as we go.
The Mad Poet.
Not that one.
It seems like the only way to get to the Mad Poet is from the Forsaken Caravanserai.
That's an expedition.
That's a whole other problem.
That's a whole other question of how do you... Oh, that's why we had to have the drugs to be able to keep our bodies asleep for so long. Because we have to go to the Caravanserai and then stay asleep long enough to travel from the Caravanserai to wherever the Mad Poet is.
But it's always the same
up,
amount of time. Yeah. It's always 6 to 8 hours that
no
we're asleep.
No matter how much time we spend in the Dreamlands.
This is true.
You said even if we spent days, weeks, years,
Wait a minute.
we would wake up 6 to 8 hours later.
If that's true, Vic says, tomorrow night, we're going back, you and me, and we're going to look through all these books. Because we can just stay there.
Look through all these books.
We can do the research.
Bring the books.
In the Caravanserai. We can do it in one night.
That's right.
Because we can bring him with us.
I mean, other than the Forgotten Spawn at the Caravanserai, which is extremely dangerous, but, yes.
Fun. And then... The thing to decide for yourself, which maybe this has just been decided, is you've got 7 research projects. You've got 7 gifts. You don't know if you need 7 gifts. You know that they researched 7 gifts. I don't think you found out if they brought all 7. And then, do you research a gift and go fetch it? Do you research all the gifts and then go fetch them? But if you're going to kill it all in one night, maybe that question is answered for you.
I mean, if time works like that,
We'll find out, won't we?
we'll find out. But there, at the very least, there's no reason why we can't be researching during the day and go and research at night.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. So this is still the early morning hours of the 4th of Kuthona, and we haven't had a chance to check in yet with your reactions to what you found vis-a-vis the Yellow King and this iteration of Lulz, like both how your characters are processing that and how you as players are processing that. I know how Johnny's processing it, but yeah, what's your take? Well, how did that sit with all you?
It's just one more thing that confuses Grip. I don't know what to make of the... He's so much younger. He seems like he can't leave.
Right.
And that he's been there for now, what?
Possibly eons.
But it seems like he was the...
In his
Because that's not the age Lulz was when we did our trip to the Mad Poet.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah, he seems to be about 15 to 18 years younger.
Does that seem like the age that he would have been when he was first seated with Jamandor?
It's definitely before.
Or even pre-Jamandor?
Certainly in that vicinity. Could be a little before, could be a little after, but it's around that ballpark.
I mean, it doesn't feel to me like it's
no, hang
slice
on.
of...
No, because he was seated in college. No.
Oh.
No, so this is...
Yeah, so to this point, it doesn't seem like this is a slice of his life. This is a that was plucked out of his, a version of him that was plucked out of his life and then placed here. This feels like the positive elements of his essence gathered together into one being. He sees the people he used and abused and enslaved as friends.
Right.
He can't imagine criticizing them for anything. He's really appreciative of their gifts and not jealous, or he is jealous, but he can work through that. Like,
He's
this
so
is
mature.
like the idealized version of Lulz. This is what he could have been if...
But he's still afraid of cats.
That's a madness, I think.
He was still raised in an abusive house, right?
Yeah. This feels like who Lulz would wish he could be, but he can't. He's far too petty and horrible and abused himself, and and so you wonder about the other Lulz we might meet in the Dreamlands if he read this book that the Mad Poet had and splintered into facets of himself that are all extreme versions of an idea.
Right. Are there multiple versions or just 2? Did he break in half?
I'm
Did
glad
he break in
we
multiple
met
pieces?
this one. Like he thinks we're all friends.
At one point in that episode, you were voicing aloud that you were thinking this is the lucid dream body of the Lulz in the real world. Do you still believe that, or do you feel differently about that?
I don't think
I
it
don't
is.
feel like that's true.
It's a great
anymore.
idea, but I don't think
it feels like much like our memories got wiped clean. Part of his memories of who he was got wiped clean, and this part of him that was left behind in the Dreamlands started over.
Some equally traumatic experience happened, and something is happening that's beyond expectation. Or yeah,
I will say for myself that Johnny the player, so frustrated every single time I have any iota of an expectation of coming in and somebody getting their comeuppance for what has happened to us. The mirror is turned right back on me, and the anger and vengeance and desire to hurt gets turned right back on me and on Vic, and it's really great. It's really great because it like any great piece of art, it makes me reconsider myself and relook at myself and go, how can I be a better Johnny? How can I not be scumbag Johnny?
Focused on revenge.
Yeah. Well, this character,
Yes.
but also part of
100%.
my enjoyment of playing the game is doing things that I myself would not normally in any way, shape, or form do.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't eat Ratchmamby?
Oh God, no. I would probably.
I don't know.
I would most likely have run out of that room screaming and have died very quickly.
So, Polly, Dabbs spent most of the last episode deliberately torturing the Yellow King. Dabbs is the one here with no background connection to this person, only knows him as a villain. I'm interested in how Dabbs was feeling it. Also, is Paul now far enough out from Ray that you similarly kind of don't feel connected to Lowell?
It's interesting. I feel like Dabbs is disappointed that they feel guilty for hurting Lowell's, who's supposedly like the most evil, horrible of all the stories that we've been hearing. This character's deserves every inch of pain that we can give them.
Right.
And the idea of like being something that was intimidating felt great, and then it just seemed like I was doing the wrong thing all of a sudden.
Well, we didn't know whether we could trust him. We still don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it's existing in that place with all the stuff that has happened to us, where we, like, Vic understands why no one in Thrushmore trusted us, because we were hideous to them. We abused the entire town. And so he understands why it was so, even though it was frustrating.
Yeah.
And so being faced with someone who is in almost the exact same position is even more frustrating.
So Dora has a different perspective on that, because Dora feels the loss of who came before much less than the rest of you.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that was stolen from all of us, mine was replaced by something I'm okay with. And I don't want to be a crazy, insane wizard person obsessed with Jamandor. So I don't think for 1 second, even after he put her to sleep and was changing the environment and all this stuff, like, it still was like, she didn't want revenge. The spell she cast on him was to try to just get him to stop doing whatever he was doing to make it harder for us. And when she woke up, she wanted to talk to him and find out exactly what we ended up finding out, which was why we came there in the first place. So emotionally, she's just sort of like, well, we got there, we got what we needed. And
Dora also didn't have this same experience that the three of us did, of walking through the streets and people being terrified of us.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because
even if she had, it would have been meaningless. They were, it would have been like, oh, that's interesting. But it wouldn't be like, oh, I'm so hurt that you remember me that way, because she doesn't remember them and didn't, as far as she is concerned, didn't actually live there. It would have just been like information for her.
So someone just treating you awful is just information.
It is for her, because she would be like, they think I'm someone else. I know I'm not. And her
they
security
don't like that person.
And they have every right to not like that person. And it doesn't reflect on anything she herself did, so she wouldn't have dealt with guilt over things that this body had done, because she herself did not do them.
As far as she knows.
As far as she knows, yeah.
So, I would like a smattering of a soupçon of perception checks from the gaggle of you.
Uh-oh.
Oh gosh. God.
Ooh, that's low.
Yeah, mine too.
Dabbs.
18. That's a 2 on the die.
Wow. Vic.
14.
Okay, Dora.
23. What's wrong with you?
And Gripper.
11. 2 on the die.
I had a 4.
So as you're going through this project together as a team, and you've got enough time, the characters have enough time to get this wrapped up before Dabbs has to go up on the deck and start their very early morning shift. Dora is noting that Grip seems to be sweating a little bit in a way that he doesn't usually seem to be, and he doesn't seem particularly aware of it. And you catch every once in a while Vic sort of like kind of like something's going on, and then you realize you also don't feel too hot. Did you bring this up?
Yeah.
Give me some heal checks there, Johnny. Or just give me one heal check.
But Dabs is fine.
Dabs is fine.
That's a 25 using the healer's kit.
So something physical is happening to Barnabas's body because of the seed in his brain, and it seems as though the three of you, now also having reached the 1 month out point from having been seeded, are beginning to show physical manifestations of the disease you are all carriers for. So if Vic wants to spend time today, he can give up one of those slots, either the morning or the afternoon slot, to do the 10 minutes required for each person of tending to do the treat disease use of the heal skill.
Yep.
And you would guess you're going to be making your saves like Barnabas did in the evening times.
Every day?
Barnabas has not had to make a save in the last 2 days.
Okay. No. Not great at saves.
I forget, did he make a will or was that a fort save?
He made a fortitude save.
Good.
Can we make a will if we want to?
Unfortunately, no. So, what?
I'm assuming this is not a burst of eligible event.
Oh, no, this is such a long-term process. Yeah. Remember, you are all becoming.
Yeah.
So my ability to have 2 projects a day has now been knocked down to 1 project a day.
For today.
For today. Okay.
As we go further in time, Johnny, and he'll start to understand, he can keep his eye out for they're showing signs in the morning. I'll give up the afternoon to take care of them. So you want to do that every day.
Okay.
But I will say, especially with that heal check, and now we're pegging these saves on 30-day intervals. You have every reason to believe that Dabwick will be making their first save on the 8th of Chthona in 4 days.
They only lasted 4 days before they heard the word.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Because remember, one of those days was the longest day in the world.
Us,
yes,
yeah.
It was. It absolutely was. So we have the whole day ahead of us. And again, there's just this weird feeling of your bodies are rested, but your brains haven't really shut off. No mechanical crunch effect, but that sort of mild disorientation is still something you're all getting adjusted to. So we know for Dabs, they're going to take their morning shift. Anything planned for the afternoon?
In the afternoon, I think Dabs would want to run a scry again, see if we can see what's going on.
Great. Vic will be crafting in the morning, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
And what are you working on?
Got to keep working on that mage's assistant.
Speaking of Mage's Assistant, boy, did I fuck up how long it takes to do that. So I talked to Johnny off air, and he basically got away with a freebie because I was feeling generous.
And in fairness, it was a natural 20 that day.
It was indeed. And also it made us realize we're going to switch rule sets for crafting as well for this book. So we had been using crafting straight out of the player's handbook. We're now switching over to the Unchained rules, which will be a little bit easier to manage on our end, cost a little less money, take a little less time, but much easier to calculate by the day. So we're doing a lot of these checks, honestly, between weeks, just so you all don't have to sit and listen to 1,000 checks, but we're going to make that switch here. And then Vic will spend the afternoon doing some healing and tending.
Yeah.
Great. And Gripper, we know, has the afternoon shift. Anything special planned for the rest of the day, or are you just showing up to work today?
I think he's just going to show up to work. I think he's becoming aware that he's not feeling great, too.
Yeah.
So
maybe using the morning to rest up for the shift?
Yeah.
Great. And Dora.
Yeah, Dora's definitely going to dive into one of these research projects, but she will suggest to the others that they take a night off from a Dreamlands excursion since they're not feeling well and they are continuing to notice this disorientation, that she thinks getting a night of real sleep might be a boon, and to see how they feel the next day, if that disorientation is still there, if they have to build in these breaks to their Dreamlands excursions. So that's the plan. She'll do one research shift, spend the afternoon getting healed, and physically resting through the night.
And everyone's down with taking this night off.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right. So Vic is working on Mage's assistant. Why don't you, real quick there, Johnny, give me a craft alchemy check
Let's do it.
for today.
Oh, man. That's a 32.
And so by the rules we're using now, Johnny, I will tell you, increments of 5 make a huge difference. So if you want to spend either inspiration or action points, it would actually be quite useful in the rules that we're using.
I think I will spend a point of inspiration.
Great, let's see if you can get it up to 35.
That is 4. So, yeah, 36.
Very good. You're looking to craft a total of 150 gold pieces worth to make this dose. You've just got 16 done.
Oh, man.
It's gonna take you some time. It's gonna take you over a week probably.
At least.
Let's make your heal checks to see if you are able to boost the saves that the rest of the party will have to make this evening.
God, that would be good.
Let's start with the gripper. This use of the heal skill does not erase uses of it from your healing
Right.
kit.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Only treat
deadly
deadly
wounds.
wounds.
Is this something I could aid on?
That's a 15.
Is it something you could aid on? Your shifts in the morning? Yes, Paul. Dabs could absolutely aid with that.
I get a +10 to heal.
Go ahead and roll it up.
So that's...
Actually, I guess you don't even need to roll. If you want to spend the time, you do aid.
Yeah.
Great. Very well. So you get, that's +2 to whatever you just rolled, Johnny.
17.
You keeping that?
That's what I got.
You do not aid
Actually-
the gripper.
Yeah, you already said it. Never mind.
Next, let's tend to Dora. Take a +2 from the dabs.
That's a 24.
Total with the +2.
Yeah.
Keeping that?
Spend another
Don't we
point
know
of
what the DC
inspiration.
is?
You don't.
Nope. Find out. All right, I'll spend a point of
You all
inspiration.
failed a whole bunch of checks on this when this came up with Barnabas. We just don't know.
For 1 point, so that's a 25.
Dora is not aided.
Wow. That's
Oh,
hard.
jeez.
This is coming right from
Thank
an
God it
elder god.
Yep.
God, it doesn't use the...
I know. Let's check for Vic aiding themselves.
Do we know is the DC the same as the save?
You do know that. Yes.
I should not even bother.
23, and then...
You can always roll a natural 20.
Nope, I don't... That was a 24 total.
Okay. Unsurprisingly, this is a supernatural
Yeah.
disease coming from an elder god. It feels a little difficult to deal with. Let's shift over to Dora. What research project does she start
Well,
today?
let's just start at the top with the Viscount's signet ring.
So you're going to sit down specifically with elements to the spirals of time, spiders of sin and sky, and theological agreements of the kingdom, and see what you can pull out.
Yeah.
So these ones require modern Osiriani and Taldane. You got both of those, right?
Yeah.
You may make, of your choice, history, nobility, or planes checks on this research project.
Might use an action point, but the Dreamlands being so dangerous, I just don't know if it's worth the tease. I get a 25.
Success.
Great.
You have hit the complexity. And in fact, you have beat it by 5. So this particular project is complexity 20. So now you can roll that D12, add your intelligence modifier, and an extra +1.
For a total of 16.
Oh, wow.
I like research.
There are a total of 25 knowledge points in this particular project. No knowledge bonus granted by the books themselves. And you are able to knock down to 9 knowledge points remaining. That's going to give you 2 clumps of information here. So as Dora spends this cold, blustery, December-y day below decks working with these 3 books, going through all of Tima's notes, poring over them, figuring out slowly and carefully which ones are useful, which ones actually led Tima to results. Here's what you learn. You discovered that Lowles learned that the mad poet was known to collect the small, personal trinkets of powerful Dreamland's rulers for reasons unknown. Lowles tasked Tima with identifying a possible target, a noble from somewhere interesting or significant enough to merit the mad poet's interest, and she landed on a man named Viscount Pietro Brellin, a mysterious but popular noble in the Dreamland city of Celophaeus. You learn that Celophaeus is one of the wealthiest cities in the Dreamlands, situated in the valley of Uth-Nargai, beside the Serenarian Sea, beneath the shadow of Mount Aran. While its smooth marble walls and impressive brass gates make it one of the more spectacular Dreamland cities, its most amazing property is that time inside the city walls stands still. More to learn upon the morrow. At the end of that, just as Dora is about to close up the books, she does find a response left by Tima to her last remark. Why don't you catch us up on where this conversation was before you read this response?
Dora had sort of dismissed Tima by saying, like, if you're not going to be helpful, if you ever have anything you want to add that's helpful, let me know. And Tima said, I don't owe you anything. If you want something, you have to give something. And Dora asked, what could a child such as myself have to offer that would interest you? And this is Tima's response. What exactly is it you want from me? You haven't even made that clear. You, the supposed diplomat. As much as I appreciate and am frankly amused by your attempts to strong-arm me into what, I don't even know, you haven't laid out what sort of contribution you're seeking from me. Have I not done enough? I give you everything. I do your thinking for you. I kill your enemies for you. What more do you want from me? If you have something to say to me, say it. If you have something to ask of me, ask it. Otherwise, you're wasting my time. I think Dora's immediate response is, I don't have anything to ask of you. It's so weird. Tima has no, she doesn't have, it feels like Tima just wants to win an argument or whatever, and Dora doesn't know what she wants from Tima. The kinds of things she wants to know are like, is this temporary? Are we going to switch places at some point? Is she going to get this body back? But she doesn't want to reveal that vulnerability to Tima. So she can't ask Tima those questions, and she doesn't think Tima knows. She doesn't think Tima understands what's happening to them any better than she does. And every question that she would want to ask Tima reveals a vulnerability that feels very dangerous to ask of Tima. So as long as I have her notes in the books, I'm getting what I want from Tima.
Right. She's doing your
that
thinking
is
for you.
Safe to, yeah, she's absolutely right. There's no argument there. And to ask what Tima wants is opening a door the door doesn't want to open for Tima, particularly.
Right.
Because she suspects that what Tima wants is to be back in this body and to seed every living person she ever meets with the name Jamin Dor. And Dor is the only thing standing between her and that, and she is never, ever going to allow that as long as she has life in her body.
Right.
So the conversation might be over.
Shutting the door for a while?
I think so.
Okay.
Till it becomes clear that there is something Tima can answer that is not personally dangerous to ask.
Got it. All right, all right. Gripper, give me that profession sailor check, my friend.
It's the first time I've rolled above a 10 all day for a 22.
Of course. So you're crushing it. And I think sometime this afternoon, enough time has passed since the sail incident.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Reuben and Gosa have mostly stayed out of your way. You did make a point of saying you went and, you apologized to all the members of the crew, and they would have very stoically accepted your apology. They're always together. This is the husband and wife pair. but otherwise have not gone out of their way to interact with you. And I think this afternoon, this chilly afternoon, as you're out working on knots up on top of the cabin, Reuben does sort of awkwardly climb his way up the ropes on the side. He's a little pudgy, he's a little older. He doesn't typically get up high in the rigging or up high on the deck. Pulls himself up next to you and just sits for a little bit, and you can see this long, painful-looking scar on his left cheek, and this is the guy that's always cold, and he's huddled in multiple layers of coats, and just kind of sits quietly looking out on the horizon as you're working on your knots for a little bit, just to kind of make sure the approach is really chill.
I'll just let him sit there in a shared silence for a moment.
After a time, as he's looking out over the waves, staring off at the very, very still distant Kyonen, you can only make out that the land is there. And heading-wise, if you all were to have done the most time-expeditious heading, you would have already made a switch to a more southeasterly heading to head directly towards the mouth of the Glass River. But Skywind is taking you directly at Kyonen, and then she'll cut along the southern bank of what will become the river so as to stay as far away from Razmarin as possible. Basically, she said, as long as you don't try to enter Kyonen, they don't give a shit if you sail their waters. Just do not land and do not enter our country. It's a whole different situation with Razmarin. So you're sort of heading towards the homeland of the elves, and he's staring out that way. Grip, I want to speak to you, if I may.
Of course.
I was very, very short with you last week. And I feel that it is not only me that was owed an apology, I feel that you are owed an apology as well. This is not something that Ketson asked of me to do. This is something I do because I feel it is right. I was too short with you. My wife and I, we spent many years in the control of the witches of Erison. Our lives were very hard. We were worked very hard. And the loss of a day's work in those circumstances led to many painful experiences, especially for my wife. And you have seen, her body is just covered in scars. She keeps them all covered. I feel that I was... I have been on this ship for many years now, and everyone here is very good. But there are parts of my life that are hard to leave behind. And as much as I'm trying to make a change into understanding what the rules are here out in the wider world, it is still sometimes difficult for me, and I feared not only for myself, but for the safety of my wife, on some unconscious level. And you did not deserve the words that I used. I know you were not trying to hurt anyone. If you will accept my apology, I am sorry for my words.
Well, of course I accept them. I mean, you weren't wrong. I was being a bit of a fuck around, wasn't I? Swinging the axes around, and I mean, I'm learning a thing or two, but even before that, I know the sales are fucking important, and so apology accepted, my friend, and I understand that it is hard to move beyond our past. It's sort of always there, isn't it?
It is so hard to escape.
It seems like you've landed in a pretty good spot, right? And I'm glad you came up to talk to me. And I feel, the apology was for damaging the sail and being a general nuisance to myself. But, you you started to push me in a direction that I'm trying not to get pushed anymore. So I'm sorry you had to see that side of me more than I'm sorry for ripping your sail and costing you a day's labor.
Have you talked to Joshua about these feelings you are grappling with?
I've not, no.
If you find yourself in the talking mood, he might have stories to share with you about his own struggles in this regard. If you would be amenable, then they decide that you know the knots, and not before, I would welcome teaching you the sail making next.
It seems like that's these big fucking sausage fingers able to wield a needle, I don't know.
Oh, I have to show you, my friends, my whole collection of needles. Some of them are sized for people even larger than you.
Oh, then yeah, let's we'll get this bit of learning done, and I'll be happy to learn whatever you got to teach me.
Very good, very good, very good. And then Dabwick, seeing this conversation sort of reaching the tail end there, over on the side of the ship, you're going to do some scrying today, are you?
Yeah, we still haven't come to conclusions about this flea, and
it's been quite some time now.
It's been a couple of days. We haven't done the scrying in a while, and I think we need to keep checking.
And you've been deep enough out in the lake. Like once you left Avalon Bay, you have only periodically been close enough to shore to even use those spells to see if you're still in pursuit. So you're gonna try to scry the flea again.
Yes.
So for an hour of incanting, laying down on the side of the ship, sticking your arm out into the waters, the cold, cold waters of Lake Incarthen, watching the gradual formation of this window in the mists that you form when you cast your scry spell. All right, so the will save. We're basically still sitting at the no bonuses, no penalties mark, aren't we, here with this?
That's right. We're at a DC 19.
DC 19. All right, here we go. 10. Interesting. Let me make some perception checks now.
Fleas are remarkably perceptive.
No, 2 fails.
Oh.
Interesting. All right, so this glowing, warm light of a fire seems to emerge again from the depths of Lake Incarthen, growing higher and higher and higher and higher until you're looking through a clear window down again on top of a very small campfire. You're still doing this like right close to your prep time, right?
Yes.
So it seems as though the rat folk witch and the giant flea familiar have just stopped moving for the night and are resting up and setting up their camp. It is very clear that they're not in Kyonin because the trees seem to be it's the same kind of forest that you've been passing in Razmarin. And as you look off, you can't even see the shore of Razmarin at the moment, but there's no sign of a campfire within view. But it does seem like, based on the geography of the sort of high cliff top under some sheltering pine trees that the witch and the flea are sitting under, that they are somewhere in Razmarin.
Still heading south.
That would be your guess. No recognizable landmark to tell you how close they are at this point. And because you're far enough from that shore, your spells aren't telling you. But it seems as though they are still in that part of the world. And they still seem to be on the move because they stopped to camp for the night, and they're not in a settlement. They're not in a civilized location. And they must be, you would guess at this point, since they're deep into Razmarin, avoiding civilization, avoiding settlements, like any wise person would in that insane shithole of a country.
Sure.
Still seem to be tracking you.
Maybe the Razmarians will take care of them.
We can hope.
So then Dabs can meditate to prepare their spells for the day. Anything in particular that you're preparing today out of the ordinary? You keeping scry on the list for a while?
Keeping scry on the list, keeping all those cure spells on the list for when we do decide to go back into the dreaming.
Yeah. We hit the evening, the time when you would normally gather up, not normally, I guess twice, when you have gathered up to do the Dreamlands excursion ritual. And by this point in the day, Vic, Dora, and Grip are feeling it. Their bodies feel lousy. They're definitely fighting something. And we now have a sense of how difficult this fortitude save is going to be based on those failed hill checks from Vic. Vic was working his ass off trying to figure out how to fight against this, but it seems real difficult. And now for the first time, the three of you are going to have to begin paying the physical toll along with the mental toll of your connection to the inmost blot. We're making fortitude saves here. Who wants to kick us off?
Can I just get it over with?
You want to go first? Oh.
Would a guidance work on these?
No, unfortunately not. By aiding Vic earlier today, Dabs has effectively done
what they can do.
Yeah, now it's just it's up to their bodies.
Unless you've got a remove disease or anything like that you would have been able to prepare. Like, there's not really much that you can.
Is that on the druid list?
Remove disease is on the druid list.
Oh.
I mean,
so I could have prepared.
You can prepare it when you meditate and then cast it like right before everyone beds down for the night.
Yes.
You want to do some preparations of that?
How many can you do?
I could do 3. I would just be taking out a couple of cure mod wounds.
And we're not excursioning tonight, so...
Right. So instead of preparing the same spells, Dabwick's going to prepare free remove disease spells.
Wow.
Thank you, Dabwick.
Cure all diseases from which the subject is suffering. You must make a caster level check against the DC of each disease affecting the target. Ooh, success means that the disease is cured. The spell also kills some hazards and parasites. Oh, good to know. Since the spell's duration is instantaneous, it does not prevent reinfection after new exposure to the same disease at a later date. All right, so you'll be making some straight-up caster-level checks, DC 1d20 plus 7, against a DC you already know is very, very high.
Is the disease simply this physical manifestation, or is the disease the seeding?
Oh, I guess this is a question like, am I able to do another heal check on it now that we have these? Because I did a roll on this before when I was looking at Barnabas, and you were like, don't really know.
The fact that you're able to make heal checks to treat this as a disease, you've covered what the heal skill will allow. It was the bevy of failed knowledge religion checks that are preventing you from figuring out more about this. Like, all you know is, like, it's making you sick, I can try to treat it.
Dora can do the hypnosis thing, and I can try to re-roll a
little
religion.
hypnosis?
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't done that in a while, have we?
Try to re-roll and see if I know anything else.
Great. So as Dabs is meditating and you know that Dabs is preparing these spells, Dora sits down with Vic after Vic has done his tending on everyone. Remind us how this hypnotism works, what it looks like, and what goes on with this. It's been a long time.
Got the crystal.
Yeah.
And it's basically just Dora talking very calmly and softly, putting Vic, if he's willing, into a trance. And suggesting that he already knows the information that he's seeking. It's simply crowded in one's mind. And we can clear some of the clutter, a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I got a lot
Make
of
our way
clutter in
back to it.
Oh.
This is fun. Okay, so the DC, this is based off of diplomacy. The DC is 20 plus the subject's will save modifier. Oh, right, we did try this a few months back. So what's Vic's will save modifier?
Vic is going to take off my cloak of resistance so as to lower my will, and it is 7.
All right, so DC 27. Give me a diplomacy check for Dora after this 1 minute.
And I can't choose to just fail it.
No, this is how effective she is at manipulating your mind to withdraw to draw the information
34.
out. 34.
Pretty
Killer.
effective.
Vic can attempt to re-roll the check with a +4 bonus.
Vic is going to take a few extracts because he knows that we're not doing anything tonight. So he's going to use a little bit of his stuff to try to see what we can learn. Tears to wine, heightened awareness, Fox's cunning. He focuses his mind trying to remember. Oh, man. That's pretty good. That's a 34.
Is that with the +4?
Oh no, 38.
38. You keeping that?
That's as high as I can get it without spending an action point.
This is...
Although this might be important enough to actually do that.
Can you kick it up to a 40? Come on, buddy.
Oh man, yeah, just burn those resources, right?
You're such a bastard.
It does. I mean, but this does feel like something that would be.
What about 41?
That we'd want to know.
Stop.
All right.
He has one resource left. He's going to use it. Just leave it alone.
It'll be what it is, Rob.
That means that I'm going to be down to 5 of 8. I'm down to 5 of 8 action points left. We haven't fought anything really bad yet. All right, let's see what I get with this.
Begging your pardon. We have fought multiple bad things.
That's a 4 on the die, so that's a 42.
DC 41.
Oh my god.
And with that, thanks to Dora's hypnosis, Vic recovers the full bevy of information on Jamin Dora's contagious lore ability, which we will describe next time. That's the end of Chapter 100!
Oh my god.
Dark Nexus is produced by Plug and Hum Productions. This podcast uses trademarks and/or copyrights owned by Paizo Incorporated, used under Paizo's fan content policy. This podcast is not published, endorsed, or specifically approved by Paizo. For more information about Paizo Inc. and Paizo products, please visit paizo.com. That's Paizo.com. Dark Nexus uses music and soundscapes by Syrinscape. Check them out at Syrinscape.com. That's Syrinscape.com. Opening and closing themes, along with additional music composed by Rob Kauzlaric. Artwork for Dark Nexus is by Matt Wahlquist. And thanks to DMCP, Richard and Ari, Paul and Shannon, Scotty, Jason, Jess, Joe, Chelsea, Matt, Dave, Derek, Darren, Michaela, J.H., the Biscuit Buddies, and everyone we've gamed with over the years for all the memories and inspiration.
Click the tab. Click the skills. Can you find skills?
Stop.
Oh my god. Did you?
Yes. Did you find that? Find the skills. Find the skills. Find the skills.
Are you looking on your sheet?
Are you even in
Have you
Roll20,
tried
bro?
turning it off and turning it on again?
Oh, I didn't mean to click tell me more. God damn it.